welcome to the Self Project podcast. I'm your host, Christy Martin. I'm a transformation and human design guide who is passionate about guiding women to be the most authentic versions of themselves. This podcast is all about self-discovery, self-empowerment, wellness, healing, parenting, mental health, spirituality, you name it, we're going to talk about it. This podcast and this space is all about helping you along on your own self-project journey. So welcome. Let's sit back and we'll dive right in today. Welcome back to the show today, and we have a bit of an unconventional episode for you this time. I spoke with Donna Goldman, and she shared more about how she came to find her company, Recipes for Survival, and how she uses everything that she makes in a mindful and sustainable way. So I hope that you enjoy more of our episode today.
So I have always been an independent, like an entrepreneur before people would even use the word. Like one of my friends said to me, and I'm old, okay? I'm old. So I've always been doing independent projects. I went to art school, and I wasn't even a good artist when I was in school. Not the way I've developed it. I would say it's definitely come in time. I just went to art school because I couldn't do math. And but then I was in the music industry for years and years. Production as an assistant to a production manager, and that was like the heyday. But but I've always cooked for myself. I'm recognized as a health supportive private chef, and I am an intuitive, especially with cooking and food and ingredients. And so I've always done that, but I've always had other projects on the side. And one of my friends, because I was designing charms for a little while, and he was like, "You're an entrepreneur." I thought I was going to do this teacup charm project because Recipes for Survival is so like boots on the ground. It has been with me for so long. I really wanted to do something new and elevated. And when I would do interviews with people, they're like, you can't not do Recipes for Survival. That's who you are. You know, that's who you are. So I have done everything in my power to elevate Recipes for Survival. So now it's called Mindful Meals and Sustainable Living, but it's my thing. It just needed to come out. It's not, people like everybody's using sustainable now. Hello, I've been using sustainable and everything about being mindful about eating and groceries for as long as I can remember.
Sustainable and mindful. So I kind of want to focus, on that. So you talked about being a health supportive or more of an intuitive chef. What does that look like? So I'm really great, like following a recipe, but I'm not great. Like, would you say intuitive is more like you're able to put it together without?
Yeah. And this is funny, Kristen, because it's total sixth sense. Like I remember friends of mine had a baby that didn't feel good all the time and stuff. And I was like, we got to make this baby apricot puree. I have no idea where it came from, but I was like, I went out and got them the best apricots it was, boiled it, pureed it. And that's where we got into that baby. At least it was something. It was just like an intuitive thing. Well, now what I'm trying to do and offer that I really want to offer now is to talk to people and come up with a signature dish. What's their, like, where they live, what they like, and through conversation to figure out a signature dish, whether it's a dinner, 3-meal, an appetizer, a main course, and a dessert, fine. Otherwise, I would love to do basic staples for people. because it's not the same for everybody, but there are basic staples that if you keep and know what they are, makes your life completely different, because you're not going to the grocery store as a pain in the ass thing to do, right? It's something you enjoy doing, and you're not just pulling at things. You become mindful. Oh, you know what? Asparagus would be really good this week. You buy a bunch of asparagus, you'll have them all week. I don't care if you have a family of 4. You're still going to be able, you use things a certain way. That I just cooked, a friend of mine had a party for 40 people. I cooked a certain way. Believe me, 40 people ate, and there was still leftover ingredient. You know, the excess of how people write recipes nowadays is insane.
I agree with you. Like the excess of food, you mean like the amount of serving?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I kind of noticed that. I order HelloFresh was something that I started doing to kind of help me with my cooking. And I noticed that the serving, what they consider a serving size, I'm like, that's like 2 meals for me.
Really, that's interesting, because I used to do Blue Apron for one of my families. Those are serious recipes. A lot of people can't. The Blue Apron's a really little persnickety thing. I thought that their portions were I thought they were substantial for sure. Not like you're saying about the HelloFresh. And I haven't done that, so I don't know. But I mean, I could be 100% wrong, but I just find people get so into excess, and that they don't think about, and granted, I am by myself. I am single. I take care of a dog, my most beautiful special needs boy.
Yes. Well, you talked about some basic staples. So like what are some of the basic staples that you would?
I would say, well, you always have to have a good olive oil and salt and pepper. Now, I make what I call salt of the earth. Like, I make a blend for every full moon. I try to, but I keep constantly, I always have a blended, like a seasoned salt. I make it. I'll tell anybody how to do it. It's nice. But you have to have good salt, pepper, and olive oil. That's how you start. It's all really basic. And the other thing is knife skills. Really simple. And it's so funny, because when I did go to cooking school, I went to Natural Gourmet for food and healing. And I grew up in a diabetic home. So I've always been cooking. My father was in the food industry. I decided I didn't want to eat like that. I did not want to eat meat every day. I couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand the cleanup. So I started cooking for myself. I stopped eating meat and started cooking for myself as a kid. And I cooked for my brother and sister and the kids in the neighborhood whenever we wanted. And then through college, and then the big aha moment was after being on a tour, one of my first aha moments, when I had been on a tour, and then I stayed at a friend's place in Oakland. And that morning I woke up, and all I had the most beautiful cup of tea and toast and a cup of tea with some spun honey on it, And I kept saying, and that's when it hit me. It's like the whole transfer of energy when you cook for yourself, or please God, for friends. It's completely different than when you're constantly catered to. I could have eaten anything I wanted, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, 24/7. No matter what I ate, I never felt satiated. Then I come home, I have a cup of tea and 2 pieces of toast, and felt completely different. And then I could have had toast and tea on the road, on doing what I was doing. You don't even think of it, because you don't have that kind of time also. It's also, there is a lot, I'm extremely lucky that I have time that I can live like this. This is how my life became. It's nothing luxurious. There's no luxurious.
But it's about priorities too, I think. What's important to you,
Well, it's luxurious that, it's a luxury to have the kind of time that I do. And I try really hard. I try. It's not like I don't try to get jobs, it's hard. Like I had 3 clients I was cooking for before the pandemic, 3 families. Everything was fine. I wasn't living on the hog, but it was okay. And then it all went away.
So you do private cooking. Do you also do catering then, right?
Well, the catering is hard because I don't have a car. I don't, and then the most recent client that I did cook for, I did everything in my apartment and brought it to them. So I have, I can do that. And then I just catered a music video for like 14 people. But I had a lot of help. Like I had a van that helped me bring the stuff. I had a van that helped bring all the bowls and all that stuff. But I cooked for 2 days. It was amazing food. And I was in a home that I could shake things out. It wasn't like a real caterer that they have the tables. A lot of it was set up for me. But I can cook like that. And I also, at times, if I'm very fortunate, get to cook on boats. That's hard because it's all about having your provisions totally together. When I didn't have English muffins for a billionaire, that cost me a shitload, having to take a car in a pouring rainstorm to get English muffins because I forgot. But it was a horrible trip. Just from the very beginning was a horrible scenario what I was going through. But you begin to learn. It's a lot. That's a lot. So and my friends help me. They know I'm always looking, so they try to get me things. And now my mission is all about my sustainable cooking. That I'm making this sustainable cookie because I can't stand anything to do to alleviate food packaging waste.
You're very passionate about it.
My friends are really concerned.
So tell me about then recipes for survival. How did that end up kind of coming about, and like what is it exactly?
Well, what happened was when I had finished this tour, I got this thing. I've always wanted to make documentary films. I always wanted to make documentaries. I was doing sound projects and compilations, and I always wanted to make documentaries before you could use the D word. And then when the music industry unraveled for myself and the man I worked with, and the industry was changing, I thought I'd get a job at the Food Network as a producer. That's what I do. I'm a production person. I was like, and I cook. That'll be great. So 60 resumes later, I honestly must have sent at least 60 resumes. And then I was in an art collective around the same time. And one of my friends invited us over because he had a show on the Manhattan Public Access. Sock puppets, and he played music and sock puppets on television. And there were like 5 of us sitting in his little East Village apartment. And I was like, well, that's crazy. I should do a cooking show. And then I'll hone my skills and I'll have a cooking show. And that's how Recipes for Survival started. The name just came to me because it was Recipes for Survival, Utilitarian Cooking, and much more. No more than $4 for ingredients, maintaining basic staples. And a friend came over and he had a light and put a light up here. And I had a camera that I got from the Witness program from Peter Gabriel's Amnesty International. I got the show on, I went and filled out this application and I got the show on public access. And in about a month's time, people started recognizing me. I had no idea. I didn't, except for like 3 friends knew what I was doing. And then it maintained like a prime time slot for over 2 years.
That's crazy. So are you still doing that?
No, not at all. I haven't done it in years, but I have boxes, like a box of all the videotape. I must have done at least 80 episodes then. And I always wrote. I was always writing. The whole thing started with, well, I don't know. It's hard to say which came first, but also at the same time, a friend of mine hired me to stuff envelopes. And the other person was an actor. And he said to me, you have to read this book called Writing Down the Bones. Natalie Goldberg, Writing Down the Bones. And that's how I started. That's what got me off the couch, was I started writing and making these little videos, the cooking videos. And, I had a cookbook. I didn't know how to put it together. None of that kind of stuff ever came about. It was, the timing was always off. When I was starving and doing recipes for survival, it was the .com boom. So my friends are like, I don't think you've been reading Rolling Stone. Because I'm like, we should have an article. We should have a column for men in Rolling Stone magazine. My friends are like, D, we're selling Breitling watches and private jets. Okay. No one's looking for recipes for survival. So their time was wrong. And now I think it's timely. There are 100,000 people that are now a cook. Everybody's a cook. Everybody can give lessons on Zoom. And I just have faith in my tribe and what I'm doing. And I continue doing it.
I love that. So you take all your old videos and put them on YouTube.
Yeah, those are and it's funny because every week I'm like, I should talk to Sal about licensing my old videos or something. But they're all in some, like high 8, and I don't even know where to have them edited anymore. They're in some high 8 cassette that came out of a thing. I don't even know, but they're there. That's not the job I'm going to take on right now.
No. Do you have cookbooks and things like that now that you offer?
I put out like a memoir that I did on Audible 4 years ago. I did that. And it's good. People like it. I think I've sold, I don't even want to say, it doesn't matter. Not a lot at all, but it's done. It's out there. It's on Kindle. It's 13 chapters. It's about 3 hours listening. And it's nice because it starts with the story I began of being on tour, and then it comes together, and each chapter finishes with a recipe that's significant to that chapter in my life, or close enough. And I love that project, and I feel I like it. I'm glad I did it. And again, that was done way before people were doing Audible memoirs, and everybody's writing a memoir now. But the sustainable cookie is really what's the wave under me right now. That's my passion when I wake up. And it's not even a passion, it's really a mission. There's a difference. I just heard this incredible podcast by a guy named Dr. DeMartini or something. And this subject alone was passion versus mission. And I've been getting his emails. I'm going to share this with you at some point. I've been getting his emails for 6 months. I haven't opened one of them. I saw that subject line and I did, and it was mind-boggling. And also I keep 2 hours at least in the morning for myself to do my morning rituals, whatever they may be that day. Nothing is ever the same. I do not do, short of brushing my teeth, I can't do routine. I cannot. That's also a curse. It is. But this cookie thing, that's got some legs to stand on, I believe, right now. And I package them. When I send them to my friends, they go in tin cans, in paint tins, or if they're in Manhattan, in a paper to go container, like an old Chinese paper to go container, and I leave it for them. So there isn't any waste. Even for the ingredients that I use, the packaging doesn't have waste.
Oh, how cool.
I'm saying even the ingredients, the bag of flour, the bag of sugar, the bottle of cinnamon, the tin of baking soda, anything I use, I try to not have even packaging waste with the ingredients sourced. Of course, all organic. And then that's a really fun story that's just coming out that I just wrote that I want to read. But how that came to be. And then I wrote, I've got this sustainable cookie. And then I named it the Sustainable Cookie. I'm trademarking that name. My friends were like, well, we'll take the cookies. We want the cookies. And I'm like, no problem. I'll just put them in a tin. I'll send them to you. Because one is in London, one's in Philly, and one's in LA. And I'm like, no problem. You'll get a tin of cookies. And they're delicious when you get them. That's why they don't, of course, I started this in the wintertime where there were hurricanes. The mail service was horrific. You don't even know. Like friends of mine, and they paid a ridiculous amount of money for cookies, okay? It's not really. Whoever wants them, they're gonna, like Kathy says, there's a price for anybody. They don't want to do what they can to help me do it, and they believe in it too. But only one friend said the package came as though somebody had already opened it up. So that it just was like a total mess. Everything. You got the tea infuser, the cookies. She was like, just give me the whole thing. And then it took 3 weeks to get to her in Minnesota somewhere, and another friend in Kentucky, because the cookies were good, but they're an oil cured olive cookie. So it's not a chocolate chip. It's not a lot of sugar. I adapted a heritage recipe. And, like the little card says, I never met a cookie I didn't like, but I love this cookie.
So you have a kit too. So do you send out a kit so people can make their own?
Yep. With the finishing salt. The finishing salt on top, like a little finishing salt, which is sugar and salt. So that's a new mixture that I came up with. And the thing is, because I use my hands because I don't have the big mixer. I have a hand mixer, but I like to use my hands because there's a couple secret little steps. And then you get a video also how to make it. But I have these cotton handler gloves, which I put this is my little teacup, but they're like, no one's going to want a teacup on their glove tea. But sometimes they wash perfectly, otherwise not really, just throw them away. But I keep using them over and over again. They're very tiny what I have, so that's why they're on pre-order, because I have to get larger sizes for people. But this is so much better than a rubber glove. I cannot tell you. For anything in the kitchen, even washing dishes. It's awesome. It's a art handler glove. So now anybody can go get them themselves, but there you go. No, and that's why one of my friends was like, why would anybody want to wear gloves if they're cooking in their own home? I'm like, because one of the steps, the very first step is you do orange zest with sugar and you blush it. So you really get your hands in it. Now, one of my friends, she's a chef on both. She was like, I didn't do anything. I just did it with my hand, with a mixer or something. She said, the oil and the egg, everything I do by hand, forming it, everything. And it's nice to have a glove.
I love that. So if somebody wanted to come find you online and order your cookies, your kit, check out your website. Where are they?
Everything is recipes, the number 4, survival.com.
Awesome. I'll have that linked up in show notes so you will be able to scroll down and connect straight with Dee. Do you also offer I see you have different recipes and things like that on your website as well for people to go try out. Is that?
Well, I think maybe what you're looking at, and as we mentioned earlier when we first started writing and communicating, was my website's in a little bit of a Rubik's Cube right now and re-put together. So I think the best thing is to look at the different lessons that I offer. And the signature dish, I think, is going to be any of the lessons. I'm telling you, I taught a friend of mine how to make macaroni and cheese. It was the best time. And also, there's a part of what I offer and what comes out that people find to be very empowering, because there's a lot shared in that amount of time. When you're teaching somebody to do something and you start with very basic knife skills, picking ingredients. So you can do it in 60 minutes. There can be a 60-minute lesson. But before that, there's also, time spent with the person to get them up to speed that they feel comfortable. I send an email, we talk in advance. And I love doing basic staple shopping and how to shop.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to make sure we have everything linked up in show notes, because I think I've been cruising around on your website and there's some really awesome things here. You can go check out the different lessons that Donna has. She has a whole blog that's got some really great stuff in it. And the audiobook is on there as well. So definitely go check that out. I love the audiobook. There's a chapter in there that talks about clam chowder. And I'm like, I love clam chowder.
That's a signature dish. I would love for you. It would be my treat. For doing this, I'll give you get a private clam chowder lesson.
Awesome. So Donna, I just have to thank you.
I hope I wish you had, ask me any questions might be better, but I hope it's not too open.
I feel like this has been awesome because we've been able to, talk about so many different things. That's just the way that I like it to go. There's so much little tidbits in there talking about, the different staples and some of the different brands you've given us. So I'm just like, this has been awesome. This has been really great.
Yeah. What a total treat for me.
Thank you for listening to the Self Project podcast. Make sure that you scroll down and you check out the show notes so you can connect with our awesome guests from today. And also come over and follow me on Instagram at _Christy Martin to see more of what I've got going on. Make sure that you subscribe to the show so that you can get regular updates, and I will see you next time.